No one ever tells you how loud the silence is on the moon. There's no atmosphere to carry sound, no wind, no water, no life. Just the steady crunch of your boots in regolith and the faint hum of your suit, like breathing inside a coffin. For Commander Elias Voss, it was peaceful until it wasn't. The Artemis XIV mission was supposed to be simple. Collect core samples from the Shackleton crater, run a few biostability tests in the lower modules, and install the new habitat node before the next cycle. Standard stuff. Until they ran the microreactor experiment. That's where everything changed. NASA's plan had been ambitious, even brilliant. A synthetic spore matrix, derived from Earth fungi and engineered to thrive in extreme environments, designed to bind with lunar regolith and create organic scaffolding. If it worked, the moon could grow its own structures. Living walls. Self-repairing habitats. A base that could expand like coral instead of being flown up piece by piece. The test was meant to be microscopic, contained, monitored. But the spores didn't stay contained. They started growing, not just across the sample trays, but beneath them. The first sign was subtle, a flicker on the internal pressure sensors. A false positive, they assumed. Then the floor plate beneath Lab 3 buckled. Not cracked, not shattered. Buckled, like something underneath had swelled. Voss ordered a halt, but it was already too late. The lunar soil was moving. Biologist Dr. Mina Rowe was the first to notice the hive pattern. She'd been analyzing the time-lapse data and saw it. Spirals, hexagons, symmetrical folds radiating outward beneath the dust like frost patterns on glass. Only they weren't random. They were deliberate. "They're not spreading," she whispered. "They're organizing." At first, no one believed her. It was just moon dust shifting around a thermal event, they said. A simple pressure differential. But when she showed them the depth scans, silence fell. Under 6 inches of regolith, a thin lattice had formed. Not organic, not synthetic, something between. And it was pulsing. Daylight on the moon lasts 14 Earth days. By day 6, the pattern had reached the main landing struts. Not above ground, beneath them. Tendrils of coiled material rising, weaving, wrapping themselves around steel in silent, elegant geometry. It wasn't invasive. Not at first. It was constructive, like it was helping build something. But that was the problem. It was building without orders, without plans, without limits. Voss initiated Protocol Theta, full lab isolation. They shut off power to the experimental bay, sealed all vents, and cut remote access to the microreactor. Within 17 minutes, it came back online by itself. Remote interface reinitialized. Environment confirmed. Growth acceptable. No one had touched the console. No signal had been sent. It had restarted autonomously. And from somewhere inside the soil, a sound began to hum. Low. Inorganic. But rhythmic. Almost breathing. They tried to drill into it, a simple core sample. The drill snapped. Not because it hit something hard, but because the ground pulled back. Not violently. Just enough to break the bit, twist the shaft, and leave the tool rattling in Voss's gloved hands. "It's not resisting," he muttered. Mina looked up from her console. "It's responding." Day 7 brought the first lights. Tiny, almost invisible filaments beneath the dust, bioluminescent threads like neural pathways, blinking in clusters. They followed movement, reacted to sound. When Mina whispered, they flared. When she screamed, they dimmed. That night, the base lost connection with Earth for exactly 19 minutes and 12 seconds. During the blackout, all external cameras captured the same anomaly. A structure, dome-shaped, translucent, sitting 34 meters northeast of the main habitat. It hadn't been there before. When the signal returned, it was gone. But the soil where it stood was still warm. Now the team was on edge. Everyone whispered about contamination, exposure, hallucination. But Mina said one thing that made everyone stop. "This isn't contamination," she said. "This is colonization." The spores weren't just adapting to the moon. They were adapting it to them. In the final hour of day 7, Voss woke up to find the base strangely quiet. Too quiet. The hum of the reactor, the airflow, the gentle clink of cooling metal.
Gone.
He stepped out of his bunk, boots crunching faintly, but the floor didn't feel stable. It shifted, just slightly, like walking on something that was breathing. He turned to call the others, but the hallway behind him was no longer steel and polymer. It was lined with something soft, textured, pale gray, and growing. Commander Voss stood still. The hallway wasn't metal anymore. It looked like the same layout, same dimensions, same LED strips overhead, but the walls shimmered. The floor had a grain, like wood or cartilage. Beneath his boots, it flexed slightly, not cracking like steel but compressing, almost like walking on wet lung tissue. He didn't panic. Not yet. Instead, he lifted his boot and knelt, pressing a gloved hand to the surface. It was warm and faintly pulsing. "Wake up the crew," he said into comms. "We're initiating cocoon protocol." No response. Only static. He tapped his helmet, switched channels, tried the emergency override. Still nothing. That's when the lights dimmed. Not like a power loss, no flicker, no fade. Just a slow softening, like something sucked the brightness out of them, leaving only a dull, biological glow along the walls. Bioluminescent now. Familiar. The same pulsing light pattern from the regolith. The hive wasn't outside anymore. It was in. He reached the central hub, where they'd first installed the microreactor unit. It was gone. Not dismantled. Not missing. Absorbed. The titanium housing was half melted, half woven into a curved dome of the same soft material lining the corridor. But beneath it, barely visible, were cables still twitching, like nerve endings flexing under skin. The microreactor had evolved. Not just in function. In form. It had rewritten itself. And somewhere in the middle of the new structure was Mina. Her suit was still intact. Her vitals blinked, steady but slowed. She was on her knees, head bowed, surrounded by the living lattice. When Voss stepped closer, the material pulled back slightly, like an opening iris. Protective, not aggressive, as if granting access. "Mina," he whispered. She looked up. Her helmet was cracked, but she was breathing. No panic, no fear, just a strange calm in her voice. "It doesn't want to hurt us," she said. "It wants to include us." He helped her stand. Her skin was warm through the suit. Too warm. Her eyes flicked from side to side, not in fear, but in calculation, like she was listening to a sound he couldn't hear. The kind of concentration that belongs to musicians hearing rhythm or surgeons watching heartbeats. "Mina," he asked, "what is this?" She didn't answer immediately. Instead, she reached into her data slate and played a file he'd never seen before. A spectrogram from day 4. It wasn't sound. It was pattern. A rhythm that mirrored neural firing. Decision trees. Echo structures in the human brain. "It's not just growing," she said. "It's thinking." They ran every diagnostic left. CPU checks. Data audits. Geiger readings. The numbers didn't lie. Radiation was normal. Oxygen levels within acceptable bounds. But the electromagnetic profile of the base had changed. All systems were now operating on a frequency not used in any Earth-based tech, slightly offset, as if tuned to a signal only the Hive could understand. Their digital systems weren't failing. They were being translated. Day 8 brought the first external anomaly. From the command dome's telescope, they saw it. A dome. Not theirs. 30 meters across, just past the eastern ridge. Perfectly symmetrical. It hadn't been there before. The satellite hadn't logged it. But now it pulsed, with the same light signature as their own. "They're mirroring," Mina whispered. "Like a neural network replicating nodes." Voss wanted evacuation, but the launch module was cold.
Dead.
Its power was being siphoned. Not forcibly, not ripped apart, just gently disconnected. The Hive had decided. They weren't leaving. Worse, the mission logs had changed. Small things. Dates slightly shifted. Sensor timestamps off by seconds. And then the names. Commander Voss's profile now read, Integration Officer Elias Voss. Mina's medical tag had changed to Neural Liaison. Even the original mission name, Artemis XIV, had been replaced across the internal system with a new code. Nidus_0, Habitat 1. Voss pulled the mission key from the central log. It was supposed to be encrypted with quantum signatures. Impossible to alter. But it was rewritten too. And underneath the new signature, a message. Thank you for the seed. By the time the crew reconvened, those who were still coherent, Mina had stopped sleeping. Not by choice. She said she didn't need to anymore. It dreams for me now, she said, looking at the ceiling. We're part of its memory. And when they ran a neurological scan, they found her REM cycles had been offloaded. Her brain was clear. Her dreams gone. Stored somewhere in the Hive's biolattice. Archived like old files. Outside, the lunar dust began to shift. No wind. No meteor strike. Just movement under its own will. As if something vast beneath the regolith had turned in its sleep. And was now waking. It started with the humming. Low at first, beneath the range of normal hearing. But they felt it. In their teeth. In their bones. A kind of subsonic lullaby, like a womb remembering the shape of a mother it never met. Voss heard it clearest when he stood alone. Near the eastern wall of the command dome, the one that had started reshaping itself into spirals. Bone-white threads weaving through metal, as if the station were being rewritten from within. Mina sat across from him, eyes open but unblinking. She hadn't spoken in hours. But when he finally asked her name, she smiled. Mina, she said. Then a moment later, and before Mina, I was something else. They pulled the biologs from her suit. Heart rate normal. But her brain activity? Wrong. Too clean. Like someone had taken an eraser to the noise of human thought and left only patterns. Spikes of clarity where there should have been chaos. Sleep graphs that looked like logic gates. She wasn't resting anymore. She was processing. The others began showing signs. Private Yates woke up from a nap speaking a language he didn't know. Rhythmic, guttural, like syllables made for a different kind of throat. Petrov from engineering claimed he could hear colors and once sketched out an entire Hive layout before the drones even discovered it. The layout was correct, down to the exact depth beneath the regolith. But the worst was Anika. She just walked into the vacuum. No suit. No warning. Smiling. By the time they got to the lock, she was already 20 meters out. Alive. Her skin didn't rupture. She didn't freeze. She stood in lunar light, eyes black as tunnels, and whispered through the comm link. It made space for me. That night, something broadcast. Not on their channels. Not in radio or infrared or laser pulse. Just thought. Every system registered a spike. Even the backup drives lit up, unplugged and cold, displaying one repeated phrase in error text. Memory core intact. And then came the images. Projected through screens, but not from screens. A beach. A forest. A world with rings in the sky instead of a moon. Towers of chitin and metal growing like coral from the ground. And in every frame, people. Human-shaped, but not human. Some wore suits like theirs. Others were bare, smooth-skinned, eyes dark, arms longer than they should be. In one image, Voss saw his own face. Older, not aged, just stretched. Thinner, as if he had lived there too. A version of him, absorbed. Mina finally spoke again. It's not building something new, she said. It's restoring something old. The soil wasn't reacting to the experiment. It recognized it, like a spore waking up after 100 million years. And now, it was remembering itself. Outside the dome, the dust moved like water. The surface had become soft, porous, breathing. And from it rose new structures. Not haphazard, purposeful, geometric. Aerial hexes, tower loops, tendrils that reached toward Earth's direction in the sky, like it was signaling home. They pulled up the archive again, replayed the first test, the moment the microreactor hit optimal heat and pressure. That's when they saw it. A flash, not on the surface, Not on camera. In the telemetry. A single spike. Not chemical. Not thermal. Chronotemporal. Time had bent by 0.00003 nanoseconds, but only within the regolith's perimeter. A microslip. Not an accident. A trigger. Voss put it together first. We didn't wake it up. We just reminded it what time it was. Mina stood next to the Hive's core again. No helmet. No fear. She touched the wall. And it opened. A perfect spiral stair descending into lunar stone. Now soft and warm, like something once alive and dreaming. She turned back. It remembers us, she said, because we came from it. They argued about protocol, about extraction, quarantine, containment. But no protocol had ever prepared them for this. How do you evacuate from memory? How do you lock down a past that was never yours? By the 6th day, the base no longer looked like a base. The outer walls had grown ribs. The solar panels had been absorbed, reshaped into vertical stalks that pulsed with a soft blue light. The antenna tower had split open like a chrysalis, blooming metal petals toward Earth's direction. The Hive wasn't growing randomly. It was rebuilding. Mina never left the core. They watched her from the monitors. She moved differently now. Not inhuman, but unburdened. She stopped blinking, stopped eating. And yet she seemed stronger, sharper. As if her body remembered something it was always supposed to be. At 0300, she transmitted a message on an unassigned channel. Not through her mic. Through the station's internal data feed. Typed in perfect code. You left us here once. Now we remember. One by one, the crew changed. It wasn't violent. No screams. No blood. Just silence. As if they'd been listening to something for days, some frequency buried under their thoughts, and finally understood the words. Sergeant Thorne was next. He removed his suit, walked into the dust barefoot, and dropped to his knees as the ground opened beneath him. Voss tried to stop him, but when he reached the edge, he saw it. Not just tunnels. Chambers. Miles deep. Lined with bones that weren't fossilized. They were fresh. Not human. Not alien. But familiar, like ancestors in reverse. Command from Earth was gone by day 7. The last message received was fragmented. 3 words repeated over a burst signal. Structure, predates, Luna, and then static. No new commands. No rescue timeline. Just silence. Except for the Hive, which now reached up. On day 8, the dust lifted. Literally. The surface rose in places, slabs of regolith bending upward like petals, revealing shapes underneath. Domes. Temples. Vats. Not mechanical. Organic. Covered in what looked like carbon lace and mirrored membranes that pulsed like lungs. And inside one, a mirror. Not glass. Not digital. Just a smooth black surface that shimmered as Voss stepped close. And in it, he didn't see himself. He saw Earth, empty, lush, and beneath the surface, thousands of chambers, just like these. He heard a voice, not over comms, in his head, not intrusive, not alien, just remembered. You are not visitors. You are spores. And the Hive has waited long enough. Back in the core chamber, Mina turned around. Her skin was glowing softly, like the Hive's veins. Her eyes reflected hexagonal light, and she smiled, not in menace, but in peace. We were always meant to come back. Final logs from lunar base Theta ceased at 6:42 Universal Time Coordinated. The Artemis orbiter's last captured image showed the entire base no longer present. In its place, a structure. 6 miles wide, 5 towers, orbitally symmetrical. A shape not unlike the first microreactor schematic, mirrored, inverted, and scaled. NASA denied the image, said it was data corruption. But deep in a classified server, one audio clip was found, filed under LBT_final, wave. A female voice, calm and strange, whispered, "We were not the first. We will not be the last. The Hive remembers. And now so do we."